All right, let's just dive right into it. In this explainer, we're going to completely transform how you understand the sudden, agonizing silence of being ghosted. I mean, we've all heard the term, right? And a lot of us have definitely felt the sting. But today, we're going to dig into the actual hard science and the psychology behind it. We're going to unpack exactly what happens in your brain, look inside the mind of the person who disappeared, and even expose the very design of the apps we use to connect in the first place.
You know this feeling. We start with this deeply relatable and honestly totally anxiety-inducing scenario. Just staring at a screen, waiting for a reply that never comes. You check your phone for the 50th time. You obsessively reread your last 3 messages, looking for that one invisible mistake you must have made that drove them away. Because from the inside, ghosting doesn't feel like some casual disconnection. It feels like standing alone in the middle of a conversation that never ended. You spent months building a world around someone, only for them to just vanish in seconds.
So that brings us to a really fascinating biological mystery. Why does a tiny digital act of silence cause such an intense visceral reaction in our bodies? Why do you get a literal knot in your stomach, that tight chest, or completely lose your ability to focus? You might tell yourself, oh, I'm just overreacting, or I'm being too sensitive. But the truth, which your brain might not be ready for, is that this reaction is incredibly real, and it is grounded in millions of years of human evolution.
Get this. Neuroscientific research shows that the human brain activates the exact same areas for social rejection as it does for physical injury. Literally, your brain cannot distinguish between the pain of a broken bone and the pain of being suddenly shut out by someone you care about. So to your neurology, this isn't just digital bad manners, It registers as a fundamental physical trauma.
Here's why. Because human connection is an absolute evolutionary necessity, your nervous system interprets that sudden silence as a literal threat to your survival. According to polyvagal theory, when you're faced with this sudden void and there's no physical predator to fight or run away from, your nervous system just drops you straight into a primal freeze response. You feel numb, you feel heavy, you get that intense mental fog, all because your body has effectively gone into emergency energy-saving mode.
So the crucial takeaway here is that your brain is going through literal chemical withdrawal. When you were connecting with this person, your brain was actively releasing oxytocin and dopamine, the molecules of bonding and reward. When they suddenly vanish, those chemicals just drop off a cliff. And that traps you in this agonizing loop where your brain is frantically searching for a reward that's simply not arriving. This is exactly why you can't stop checking their social media. It's an addictive craving, not a personal weakness.
Okay, let's shift perspectives for a minute. The suspect, inside the ghoster's mind.
It is incredibly easy to just label a ghoster as cruel or heartless, but the clinical reality is far more complex. What's fascinating is that ghosting rarely stems from actual malice. It's mostly a trauma-rooted defense mechanism to avoid the intense discomfort of emotional conflict. For someone with an avoidant attachment style, intimacy triggers a nervous system danger signal. The thought of a direct confrontation, looking you in the eye, or sending that text to say they aren't ready, feels absolutely catastrophic to them. So what do? They dissociate. They turn you from a real, breathing person into an abstract notification that they can simply swipe away, escaping the pressure instantly.
Studies even highlight a major divide in how people view relationships. People who believe love is pure destiny tend to ghost at the very first sign of friction. If it requires an awkward conversation, they just assume the universe is telling them it's a bad match, and they bolt. On the flip side, people with a growth mindset view friction as a normal, necessary phase of building a relationship. They actually communicate through the irritation instead of running away from it.
Listen, if you only take one thing away from this explainer today, please let it be this. You have to stop turning the blame inward. Ghosting is entirely about their emotional bandwidth. It is not about your fundamental value as a person. They aren't leaving because you are too much or too boring or too available. They're leaving because they simply do not possess the maturity to sit in a room with emotional discomfort. Their silence is a confession of their limits. It is absolutely not a critique of your worth.
All right, let's zoom out to the macro level. The system, the dating app conspiracy.
We are trying to build deep, meaningful human connections using tools actively engineered to keep our interactions shallow and disposable. Look at this staggering admission. A prominent dating app founder literally looked to psychological experiments on pigeons to design the interface. These apps are intentionally gamified. They aren't built to find you a lasting partner, they're built to keep you addicted to the search. Think about it. A happy, committed relationship means they lose a customer. Their ultimate goal is just to keep you swiping.
To really understand why it is so shockingly easy to vanish today, contrast the high accountability village square of the past with the anonymous, consequence-free design of modern dating apps. Back in a village square, if you treated someone like garbage, the whole community knew. Your reputation tanked. But today, in the app ecosystem, you're largely anonymous. There is zero social consequences for disappearing, and that dramatically lowers the barrier to treating actual human beings like disposable, easily replaceable options.
Which brings us right into the cycle of ghosting.
Because these digital systems strip away our social accountability and our empathy, they fuel a truly devastating psychological loop. The data proves just how normalized this behavior is now. Ghosting isn't some rare, isolated event. It's a massive systemic cycle. Nearly a quarter of the population admits to participating on both sides of this dynamic. We are literally dealing with an epidemic of unresolved digital departures.
And honestly, this is the most tragic finding of all. The unhealed trauma of being ghosted makes victims significantly more likely to inflict that exact same psychological violence onto someone else. It becomes this twisted defense mechanism. You learn that the digital world is unsafe and unpredictable. So to protect yourself from being abandoned again, you start abandoning others first. It's a completely self-fulfilling prophecy of loneliness.
This cycle keeps churning because the brain gets trapped in what psychologists call an incomplete Gestalt. Think of it as a door left slightly open that constantly drains your mental battery because the narrative was abruptly cut off. A healthy human mind requires experiences to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Ghosting completely denies you that ending, so you're stuck endlessly trying to write the final chapter of a book that someone else already threw in the trash.
But there is a way out. Let's talk about the cure, creating your own closure. Since the algorithms actively want you lonely, and the ghoster is too emotionally overwhelmed to provide an ending, we have to take control of the wheel. You cannot wait for the person who broke the loop to come back and fix it. So here is the tactical process for self-healing independently. Step 1. Write down only the objective facts of what happened, pulling their actions completely apart from your anxieties. Step 2. Write the unsent letter. Get out all your anger, all your confusion onto paper, and then absolutely do not send it. Just give those feelings a place to land. And finally, step 3. Consciously, intentionally, choose to stop waiting for their validation.
You have to stop treating their absence like a puzzle to solve. We waste so much time hoping they'll text us the truth, completely missing the fact that their behavior is the message. Silence is not a mystery, guys. It is loud, clear communication. They are showing you in real time exactly how they handle pressure, how they handle conflict, and how they handle partnership.
Now, I do want to make a really quick but absolutely crucial caveat here. Going silent is sometimes necessary. It is healthy to protect your own peace, especially if the other person makes you feel unsafe. If someone is manipulative, if they repeatedly trample your boundaries, or if your gut is just screaming a danger signal, you do not owe them a polite goodbye. Protecting yourself from abuse is not ghosting. That's survival.
But for the standard dating disappearance, I want to leave you with this profound truth. Closure is not a conversation. It's a decision. You need to realize you are mourning a fantasy. You aren't mourning the real person, because the real person is someone who bails the second things get complicated. You are mourning the potential that you projected onto them, and you absolutely do not need their permission to move forward.
We've unpacked the biology, we've looked at the psychology, we've exposed the algorithms at play. So my final question for you is, what is your closing ritual going to be? You have the tools now to understand that their silence was never, ever about your worth. It's time to stop waiting at a door that somebody else locked. Take your energy back, make the decision for yourself, and close the loop today.